smile on secret. May they never reach your ear. If my skin screams obscenity, may they never cause you tears. If my heart is heavy when you weigh it on the scale, may it counterbalance yours. If the scoreboard sings an ever-blinding light, may it never show the score. When the fire dies, can I keep you warm? You're the lover of my life. With my fettered frame, I will hold you up. I can see you with fading sight, and against all dying light, oh, make this fire bright. When the fire dies, can I keep you warm? You're the lover of my life. When the fire dies, can I keep you warm? You're the lover of my
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the FST Improv interviews with myself, Will Aware, Director of Improvisation at Florida Studio Theater in Sarasota, Florida. This is our weekly show. Every Friday night at 7 o'clock, we get together with an improv performer, director, teacher from around the world to discuss improv and life and anything else that might come up. Now, before we introduce this week's guest, talk a little bit about the other virtual shows we have going on here at Florida Studio Theater. On Thursday nights at 9:15, we do have Impro Latinx, which is our Spanish-speaking improv show. On Friday nights, we have a 7 o'clock show via improv interviews. And at 8 o'clock on Fridays, we have a private show over Zoom. It changes every week. If you're interested, you can reach out to me, either DM me or send me an email, whatever you, however you want to reach out to me, and I can get you an invite for that. On Saturday nights at 7, we do radio call-in over Instagram. So come check us out. And then on Saturday nights at 8, we do another closed Zoom show. It changes every week. Tomorrow, we're doing a show called Sketchprov, featuring our cast plus guests from around the country. Now, this week's, I also want to say thank you very much to our cast member, Matt Walker, who provided this week's, in fact, provides every week's pre-show music. Matt is an improviser again in our cast, local improviser and artist, and just amazingly talented person. We're here in the Sarasota, St. Pete, Tampa area. So why don't we get started? So this, our guest this week, and probably the person that I've been working the hardest to book, is she is a very busy person. And folks and fans of the Sarasota Improv Festival are very familiar with her. She has been here multiple times performing with North Coast, with Big Bang Improv, maybe even with Improv Boston. I can't remember how long she's been coming, but she's definitely been here quite a bit. So please, let's hear it for Rachel Rosenthal. Rachel, welcome. Hey.
Wow, what a
Yes.
crowd.
Yeah.
Ooh, sit down. Please sit
No,
down.
no, they don't want to. They're gonna stand during the whole
Oh my
interview.
God.
Can you
This is-
believe?
This is too much. Wow.
Welcome,
welcome.
Rachel. So yes, I've been trying to get you on this for a long time, but somebody is always busy. Somebody's moving cross country, so many things.
So many things.
But it's so good to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm so good. How are you?
I am good also. I am good also. You know, staying
Yeah.
busy, doing these things. I'm
I
so glad
mean,
that, yeah.
You know.
Go ahead. We're
It's
like
just
doing
a
as good as we
weird-
can.
Yeah, exactly. This year is just like when people say, "How are you?" It's just different than it used to be. But I'm good. Staying busy, obviously.
I guess that is the new good. The new good is that we're getting by. We're able to stay busy and we're able to talk to each other and all that.
Yeah.
So are you
Able to pay rent.
yeah. So are you
And go crazy.
so what are you doing improv-wise during all this?
I'm mainly teaching. I in quarantine.
Okay.
I've been teaching a ton of corporate improv workshops. I'm working with lots of different businesses, teaching improv, which I always have done, but I thought was going to completely dry up in COVID, but actually people just, I think, need to connect more than ever. So I actually have had
I would
a
agree with
nice
that.
amount of businesses to work with. And then I'm teaching level 1 improv right now with Brooklyn Comedy Collective, who
Okay,
is
cool.
a theater in New York, which you've worked with us once
Yep,
before.
yep.
So I'm working with them still, which is, I honestly was afraid to teach level 1 improv on the internet, but it actually works much better than I thought. I guess everyone's
Yeah.
probably experienced that. And
Yeah.
that's going well. And then I've done a little bit of teaching with North Coast. We've been doing some freestyling classes. And then I'm not really doing that much performing right now. It's just not improv performing. It's just, it's interesting. It's just different.
It is different. I will say this, a shout out to him if he's watching. I have been invited to start doing weekly shows with Connor Allen. Do you remember Connor? Old Improv Boston guy.
Yeah.
So he's always had that very fun, fast-paced energy that I think a lot of us in Big Bang could relate to. And he does a weekly show out of Oakland, which is where he's at now. And it has become like probably one of the most fun. Like it captures a lot of that same energy that we're used to, where you're just like constantly laughing at each other as much as you're laughing at the content, right? And so it's become a fun distraction. Yeah, it's every Saturday night at 11 p.m. my time, so whatever that is, or 8 o'clock your time. And so yeah, I'll definitely let you know, because I think again, it's so you know those stupid laughs that we get from like giving each other a hard time and all of that. So yeah,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh no, I lost you.
You lost me? You can't hear me?
Oh, you're back. You're back. I know.
Oh, okay.
Weird.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
It is totally fine. Cool.
Yes, I miss that kind of high energy. Yeah, I miss being on the stage. I was actually just watching a couple nights ago. I was actually looking for live improv shows to send to my improv students, because it's hard to learn improv when you've never seen improv. And since there's no live shows happening right now, it's also really different to show them Zoom improv. It's just different. Yeah. So I was looking at old shows online, and I was watching a show of like my husband Sam and I doing our Ray Roast improv show. And I was having so much fun watching myself perform in some 10-minute set or whatever. And I was like, oh, looks fun. Like, I want to do this again, So one day.
Soon, hopefully. Yeah, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be back on stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I told you before we started, every week I pick a topic to talk about, and it's just meant to open up conversation, and then eventually we'll probably wind in and out and talk about different things. And I wanted to get your input on something because you are one of the longer term members now of Big Bang, which goes through several different generations, right? And you're definitely been one of the more consistent performers there, along with like Paul Dome, right? And so, and you've also seen the idea of Freeform, which originally out of the Boston area, now a bunch of us teach it where we can. You've seen how it also has evolved and kind of continues to evolve. And I asked you before this, I'm like, oh, so what are your favorite moves? And you talked about the idea, which I do have one week in my level 6 class where we cover this idea of what we call physical pivoting, where you take a physicality from one performer and turn it into, make it you reframe it so that it's something else entirely,
Yeah.
right? And in free form, it happens very quickly. Like it's there's no freeze, there's no cut, there's no sweep, there's no anything. There's just like one line, and it's completely reframed. And when I asked you, what's one of your favorite moves in free form? This is the one that you identified.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
think it's one that I think it's one that I connect to the most, that I do often. And in thinking about it, it's probably because I'm a very, you can't hear me?
A little bit, yeah. Cut off again.
Okay.
No headphones, and you can tell me if this is any better, okay?
Oh no, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you
Oh,
fine.
I got you. You're back.
I've determined that this is on your end, by the way, because
you could. That's fine. Let's pretend that it's on my end. All right.
But anyone who's listening on Facebook, you let us know in the chat. Is it me? But yeah, I think one of the reasons I love that move so much is because I am a really physical player. So I notice physicality in other people, I think. And so if someone's standing in a way that I think is interesting, I want to take that and use it. And I think another reason I love it so much is because it's something I don't do a lot in other types of improv. Like it's only in Freeform that I really get to explore that.
Yeah. Yes. And so this is a great, like, I love when I get to this week in my Freeform class, it's like something that people, for them, it becomes this entirely new thing. You're like, wait, what? You could just be inspired by how somebody is standing and then reframe it. And not only that, in Freeform, like I just discussed, it happens so quickly. It's like you're in one scene, like you could be standing like this in one scene, and then suddenly somebody walks in and completely changes you. And your job is to just stay there and be like, this is totally normal, right? And which becomes part of the fun. And you and I mean, I think about like, because we did I think a 2-person Big Bang in Germany.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And I'm remembering now, I didn't think about this until right now, like the pickles, wasn't there like a pickle jar? And didn't we like become the pickles? And then it was, there was this whole thing of like 2 people on a date eating pickles.
Yeah.
And then we became the pickles, and it was all so quick, right? But it was all purely like physically pushed.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that world bending that happens in our shows where it's like you're seeing something from here and now you're seeing it from, you might be seeing something from outside the pickle jar and then suddenly you're seeing it from inside the pickle jar.
Yeah.
And I love that as well as an option, It's so fun to like see things from different angles in our shows,
Which is one of those muscles that, I mean, I'm getting better at teaching it, this freeform muscle, but it is a very specific, and it's fun. Like all the people that are in Big Bang can we all have done this for a while, so we all share that language. But it's also fun to teach somebody into it so that they suddenly are like seeing it. They can be like, oh wow, I love the way you put it. You bend it, like the way you could bend the reality backwards and forwards without ever stopping the scene, which has always been a big thing for me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
So Freeform is something that you do, and that you have a great, very informative Freeform interview online.
I do.
You did. You like interviewed with these two people. It was right at the beginning of the.
Oh, in Ireland.
Was it in Ireland? There were two guys that you were interviewing with. I feel it was at the beginning of this whole thing.
Yes, it was with Neil Curran, who's
Okay.
in Ireland, and his partner in improv crime, whose name I'm blanking on at the moment. But yes, or no, wait, I know. Well, okay, so I did that one, and then there was one other one. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was James Casada. That's who it was.
Okay.
Me all about Freeform. I think the one I did with Neil, I'm sure I talked about Big Bang, but maybe that was more about North Coast. Yeah. Anyway, it was a podcast and like Zoom kind of format where they have long form talks about improv instead of
okay.
So we like really got into Freeform.
You guys really did. I think it's such an informative interview. I enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. It's funny, actually, when I was doing an interview with the guys in Ireland and about, I think we talked about both North Coast and Freeform and Big Bang. While I was talking to them, it was like it was in maybe mid-March. So we'd only been quarantined for a little while. While I was talking to them, they were like, hold on. We just found out that our country just got shut down. Like they weren't in quarantine yet. And
wow.
And while we were talking, they were like, oh, we all just got shut down.
Oh my.
But anyway, but yeah, in talking about that like physical pivot.
Yeah.
The example that comes to my mind is from a recent Sarasota show from a Florida Studio Theater like improv festival show, I think. And it was like, of course, this is the example I remember, but I know you and I were in it. I think Sarah Burns and maybe Dave Sawyer was in it. And there was a scene where for some reason it kept going back to this like very phallic laboratory. So there was a moment where like someone was standing and two people were looking for something below. And then it kind of looked like,
Yeah.
And so I just stepped in and I was like, all right around here, this is this.
Oh, that must be me. It must be me. No, I can't hear you.
Oh, I can hear you.
It's gotta be me. It's gotta be me.
It's you. Facebook, you let us know.
No, I hear you now. Nope, I don't.
Oh my gosh.
Well, now I hear you. It was brilliant. Okay. Very phallic laboratory.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to say it again? But basically, like one person was standing in one position and two people were crawling on the floor next to them. So it started to look like, phallic. And so anytime someone was in a position that was anything like that, we would step in like we were teaching like a sex ed lesson. And it was and then after you establish it once or twice, someone could be standing in any position and you're just like, all right, when it looks like this, something's wrong, like you could do anything at that point. And I just love the fact that like at that point, you're just in the audience's brain and you can make them go there with you,
So you just said something that's important in regards to improv, like being in the audience's brain, which I've always has always been one of my most welcomed, how can I put it? Just comments about what we do with Big Bang. Compliments is what I'm trying to say. That one thing that you said is what I've heard so many times regarding Big Bang is like, you are in my head is what I hear. And I'm just like, oh, that means a lot. I'm like, because I do feel like Big Bang, like when we are in the flow, like we are definitely like surfing on the consciousness of the audience. Like we know what they're thinking and we're thinking it with them.
And I think that is so great because a lot of improv shows think they have to over direct and over explain to the audience, like, now we're in a new scene, or like, now Will is a different character. And when we do it, we don't have to tell telegraph, that's not the word, but we don't have to say all those things to the audience. They're just with us, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just like empowering your audience and just trusting that they're gonna go there with you. One thing I always say when I'm teaching level 1 improv is that if you do something once and then you do it again, you're always gonna get a laugh. And it's because it's like an inside joke that you just created with them a few minutes ago. And they love an inside joke, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember you just reminded me of a quote that I remember sometime in early Facebook, I posted something and you were one of the first people to comment on it. And that was at you could tell how close of a friend you are with somebody when you have an inside joke with them. Right. And I could think like almost every close friend I have one inside, like even the first thing I did when I saw you, right, today.
I think 1,000 with you, but I literally, I mean, but you know, I've known you for 20 years, so it's a little different, but yeah.
But it's like, with the audience, I love that's such a great, that's a great way to think about developing a relationship with an audience, is like trying to develop an inside joke with them. And you're right, like Big Bang does a really good job of like creating that with an audience, creating that inside joke, because we are like like we're noting, like when we are at our top flow state, we are in the audience's head and we are creating together.
Yeah.
Right. And we're discovering and we're all laughing together. Oh man, like, oh, can't wait to do this again.
I know. Oh, it's so fun.
I was trying to remember which Sarasota Improv Festival that was with the phallic staging.
I think it was I actually think it was pretty recent. Like there's part of me that feels like it was, I mean, last year didn't happen in any sense of the word. I feel like it was like 2019 or something, but I'm not sure.
Well, 2019 was you, me, Pat, Mish, and Sarah.
Oh, that was it. I think it was that.
That was it? Okay.
Phallic jokes, yeah.
Yeah, that seems like the right crew.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're focusing a lot on Big Bang, but that is not the only thing you do. We've also mentioned North Coast. That is your other big crew. So now how's that going?
It's good. So, you know, North Coast is hip hop improv, and because it's music based, I think it's an extra challenge to figure out on Zoom. So we did some shows for a little while where we found, you know, some way of not having a major audio delay. But I think it's still a little bit challenging to do the musical improv online in a way that's like as high quality as we want it to be. I think one of the things that North Coast has always done really well is have like a very high level of execution of our shows and our product. Like we really rehearse and we deliver, and online it's just been a little different. So we're still figuring out what our virtual offerings are going to look like. But we've still been doing classes in a whole bunch of things, but we've done a bunch of freestyling classes. And what's been cool about that is just, I'm sure you've experienced this too, is just like getting to work with people all over the world who are taking our classes right now. And that's been really cool. And we did in the beginning of quarantine, we were doing more just like live Instagram freestyles where people could just like put suggestions in the chat. And so yeah, we're kind of, I think we're figuring out the virtual stuff, you know, but also just hoping that soon we can go back to having, you know, a live beatboxer right next to us. And yeah, that's the North Coast update.
Oh, lost the last part. There we go. Sorry, I just lost the very last part.
I just said that's the North Coast update.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then like Sam and I do a duo together, Ray Roast, my husband and I, as you know, because you witnessed our nuptials.
I did witness it. It was historic.
It was
It was,
historic.
it was beautiful. It was great. It was awesome. What a great party that was.
Oh man, yeah. We were just talking before we went live about how that was like the last big party we were all at, basically, because it was like we got married right before this whole disease situation. But anyway, Sam and I have been working in quarantine on our podcast because that seems more possible than improv, or a little different, and that can be done remotely. So that's been fun. We've been working on that.
Oh, Rachel. So that's good. No, well, I'm so happy to hear that you're busy. Now, did anything get cut off because of COVID? Like, did you have anything? What was 2020 going to look like? Was there anything planned improv-wise?
It's a really good question. Yes, although I can barely remember anymore.
Yeah.
I know I had talked to a couple festivals about traveling last year for festival performances last year and workshops that got canceled. And I can honestly barely remember anymore. I also had some like workshops that were canceled, obviously. I think it's been cool to see the evolution of people getting more comfortable with doing stuff online, because in the beginning of quarantine, for example, like I had a couple, workshops lined up with businesses and they were like, they're canceled. We don't want to do this online. It's not going to work online. And then 3-4 months later, they were like, okay, let's do this online. because, so yeah, but I can't even remember anymore what 2020 was supposed to look like. I really can't remember. And then I ended up moving across the country.
Right.
That was I was living in New York, in Brooklyn, and we were going to move apartments, but stay in Brooklyn. And instead we moved to Portland, Oregon. So it's
Now, I do want to get back to like, if you don't mind, to one thing, and that is North Coast. And maybe it's specifically not specifically North Coast, but specifically the idea of improvised rap. Because I do actually, I need to get you connected with a student of mine who's interested in learning improvised rap. But I do think, just from speaking to her, it made me realize like there is a almost like a fear. Like a lot of people are like, I can't do this. I can't. There's a fear. And do you have any tips, advice? Like a lot of my students watch this. They'll watch it during the week before classes, like before we meet up, they'll watch it and then they'll ask me questions about it. So I'm sure my student who's interested in taking classes will watch this. What would you say to somebody who's interested in taking improv rap classes, either virtual or live?
So I think like one of the main fears comes from the fact that there is, there's rhyming, and then there's rhyming to a beat where like you can't dip out for a moment, think about what you're going to say and dip back in as much as you can in just an improv scene, right? But there's a couple things that we talk about in freestyling classes. One is that it really, really, really is a muscle. Freestyling is a muscle, and it is impossible to work that muscle out or get really confident in freestyling if you only do it for like 20 minutes a week. Like it's going to be really hard, just like any other muscle that you're trying to work out. But if you do a little every day or a little bit more than 20 minutes a week, you're going to start to get more comfortable. I mean, for myself, I've been doing it for over 10 years. And when we have a ton of shows and stuff, I'm like, oh, I can rhyme with anything. Like, I'm like, it's all coming out of me. And if we take a few months off or whatever, I'm like, I need to exercise. It really is a muscle. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that we talk about in beginner freestyling is to just kind of trust in the fact that your brain can grab rhymes, because we've all been rhyming and hearing rhymes since we were little kids. Like 3 years old, we're hearing these books, we're hearing nursery rhymes and they rhyme. And as we get older, they are still back there. Just like the lyrics, every lyric to Shoop is in my head, so are all of the rhymes that you've been hearing since you were a child, right? So just kind of trusting that they are there. And so in the moment, you will be able to access them. But again, that becomes easier the more you practice.
All right, hold on. Here I go. Again.
Girls, what's my weakness? Man. Okay, then chillin'. Great song.
It is a great song.
I think it was maybe on my must play at my wedding.
That was I had an ex-girlfriend in college that whenever that song came on, we like immediately jumped onto the dance. Yeah,
it's a classic.
It is a classic. Okay, so good. I'm glad that was great. Those are like really good things for, I think, anyone who's thinking about taking a musical improv class, or rap improv class with you.
And some folks, so a lot of times I get musical improvisers in a hip hop class, and they're like, oh, if I have to just sing it, I have no problem. But when it's rap, I have more of a problem. And some of the reason for that is speed. People think you have to rap so much faster than you have to sing, which sure, in a song, you could be like really singing out the line length, but you can do that in hip hop also, right? Like if there's a beat that is intimidating because it's too fast, you can double your verse length, right? So does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
So there are tools available to you. You just have to kind of know when to access them.
Is there anything that you can do right now for me, like a simple drill, just a simple drill that like we could show people that'd be like, I want to learn more of that from Rachel.
Okay.
Like to get me, like I'm afraid of rhyming. Like let's say that I'm that person. I'm like, oh, I can't come up. There's no way. I can't come up with a rhyme. I'm nervous.
Yeah. Well, Beasties is such a common exercise in like non-musical improv, right? Like you've done Beasties to just warm up before, right? So I think that's a great exercise because what it does is it adds context with rhyming, right? So if we're going da 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 da. So I'm standing here with my feet on the floor. Da 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 da
da da da. I am chewing on an apple core. Da, 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 da,
da. And I knew you were going towards core because we knew what the rhyme sound was. We knew it was a or sound. And we knew once you added apple, I was like, I know exactly where he's going. It's core, right? Yeah. I'm on the sandy beach looking at the shore.
Sure. But da, 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 da. I'm going in my house. I'm going to open the
door. Da, 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 da. 1, 2, 3,
5. Da, da, da.
Very good. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. No, I got it. All right, cool. That's good. Now, that's you're right. Like that is an exercise that we do. I think in our musical improv curriculum, I think week 3 or 4 is when we finally get into rhyming, and that's one of the things that we do. But you're right. Like it's kind of like in my regular improv classes, I try to demystify scene work because I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I got to make stuff up. I'm like, no. You're having a conversation. That's all these two people are doing is they're just having a conversation. So literally the first 2 weeks of classes, I'm just having you're having a conversation on stage and we're all watching you. Like just get used to that.
Yeah.
And now it's, okay, you are 2 people on a date having a conversation. You are mom and child having a conversation, right? But you're right. It's all about like demystifying it.
Yes.
And then being like, oh yeah, I could do this.
Yeah. I think demystifying is a great word for it. Another thing that folks sometimes, like one of the things that I talk a lot about when I'm teaching freestyling is to try to think about your songs or your bars as poetry versus full essays, which means
Okay.
you can take out all the little words that are tripping you up, right? If you're like, I woke up in the morning and I wanted to make some breakfast, right? It's like, it's too many words for the full story, but it's a song, it's a poem. You could just say like morning, alarm, breakfast, right? You don't
That's
need,
good.
you know,
Yeah.
you need all those little words.
Yeah.
So you can start to free yourself up a little bit if you start to think about it. Okay, it's not a full essay, it's not a full story. It's a poem. It's you know, it's a song.
That is great. That was such a good example. Yeah, that like, and it's still like just it still makes sense. Like in that poem, as a poem, right? It still completes the image.
Right. The
That's
audience
so good.
is going to be like, why didn't they say the, in, or to?
Yeah. Oh man, that's really cool. It's cool. So yeah, I'm glad we spent some time on this because, like I said, this is one area that I get often asked about, and my first response is to send them to you or to Doug Wydick or somebody else. I'm like, I don't know. But I mean, I'm glad that we have this video as a resource now for some of our students, and I'll continue like to be able to, they can look at it and be like, here, this is why, right here, like people can hear you talk about this because it's such an important skill. It's so neat. But so we did start by talking about the whole freeform idea of physical pivoting. And as we start to kind of wind down the interview, we talked about the reframing of people on stage. Like, you know, and just got to give an example of that. I think it'd be good for our to give an example of what that means, like the physical reframing. So, so for example, I might be in the middle of a scene where I'm doing like this. I'm showing something off. I'm at a museum and I'm showing this. And then suddenly Rachel comes in to reframe me. Like I'm in the middle of the scene with another actor and I'm like, oh yes, this piece of art was painted in 1971. And then what might you do, Rachel, to kind of reframe this?
So I might walk in and just be like, sir, you cannot steal the sculptures, okay? Those are attached to the wall. You cannot try to leave with that. That's property.
Good, excellent. Awesome. And then just to show the audience what was happening here, right? So like I'm like this, and then I'm talking to another actor, and then Rachel would come in off from the off stage with a character that doesn't fully fit with this reality. So that is a cue already to me. I'm like, whoa, what is this character doesn't fit in, therefore it must be for a new scene. And then as I'm standing like this, I'm looking at Rachel makes direct eye contact with me, and she says that line, you cannot steal it. So then I would say, oh, but I really want it. I really want to take it home with me. And so then let's continue that scene for a little bit, and then we'll show another physical pivot. Okay. So then I would say something like, oh, but I really want to take this home with me.
Yes, sir. This is the Museum of Metropolitan. Like there's security everywhere, and literally the police are about to arrive. Please put down the sculpture.
Keep pressing the keys on the keyboard. There you go. Just keep pushing the keys on the keyboard until you get comfortable. There you go. Do you hear the notes? Do you hear the notes? Do you see D, E? Just go ahead.
When am I going to be like Chopin?
Good, excellent, awesome. So in the middle, just to show our audience, I did it in the middle of one scene, did a quick pivot to another one, and inspired by how Rachel had her fingers like this, right, and then immediately pivoted to a totally different scene. And when I teach this, and when people watch this interview, they'll be like, yeah, but how does the audience keep up with you? And then this goes back to what you and I were saying at the beginning. The audience will keep up with you. They will get it because they are 9 times out of 10, they're thinking the same thing. And it's just a matter of you just nudging them in a certain direction, which I think is the power of freeform.
I wish I could remember the exact specifics of this, but there was a show I was doing with other big bangers. It was at the Pit in New York. And I remember Rachel Klein was in it. And I think Sasha and myself, and I'm not exactly sure who else, but.
Probably Taylor.
Yeah, probably Taylor.
Yeah.
Something happened where like someone was in a scene in a kitchen, and I tried to make a move to come out and like I basically messed up. I tried to imply that something was on the counter, or I was trying to open the oven. I don't know. I messed up. And I left the stage kind of like, I really screwed the pooch on that one. And then, of course, someone came in and did what I did, because we just support no matter what, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we all started going like this and hopping around the stage. And it all became like, oompa, loompa.
No.
And it was just like, it turned my mistake into a transition where we all turned into Oompa Loompas. And like, it was just so natural and fun. And it did not come from here at all.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
That's a great, and another great thing I love about Big Bang is how, and this goes deep into the philosophy of it, it's like, nothing is thrown away and there are no mistakes. Like even the most subtle thing that might look like a mistake becomes the biggest gift in the world, because we don't let that become a mistake, which has always been like, I mean, and this goes now to my philosophy of improv, is that, you know, my goal in improv is always to make it as successful as possible. And I think part of that is being able to quickly recycle and reframe and reuse things, so that there's always a gift. There's always a gift, always. And that's like at the root of Freeform. Like there's always a gift somewhere in what you're saying, what you're doing, whatever. But yeah, I'm glad we covered the whole idea of like physical pivoting and physical reframing. We didn't even get a chance to get into like the snatch edit, right? Which it kind of falls into this as well, where for those who don't know the snatch edit, so like where I might maybe have a glass, you know, and I'm like, cheers. And then as I'm ending my scene, cheers, Rachel comes in, takes the object, and then it becomes something else for her. And then she turns it into a phone. And then I might come in as a different actor, and then I snatch it from her, take what was a phone, what was a wine glass, then became a phone, right? Then maybe I'll turn it into a flashlight. And now we are pivoting this object. But what's important here is that we maintain the integrity of the shape, and some of the weight of the object stays intact, so that we could the object quickly comes in and out of different scenes. And then eventually on one of those scenes, we will stick it.
And what we're doing there is it's really not thinking, right? Again, it's like all in being inspired and discovered. And it is made clear by context, right? Yeah. So if we didn't add any context, it maybe wouldn't be super clear, but it just makes me think about when I go back to like the freestyling lesson, when you add the context, it just makes things like a little bit easier. Like I think the same thing goes for like the object grab. Like if I just went like this and said hello, you wouldn't know what it was. But if I go hello, right? Yeah. Like it just makes a difference.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it's so funny, like just even right now, and this is one of the reasons why I love the snatch edit. One of the reasons I love a lot of the freeform edits is that I came in as a supportive move. I came in and took the phone, and I wasn't even at that point 100% sure where it was going.
No.
But I let my body tell me. I was like, what does this look like? I almost went, instead of a flashlight, actually, I almost went into like an apple.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then and then that's what that seemed to be. But yeah, just trying to, I got to teach Freeform as an intensive to some really, really veteran performers in Europe a couple of years ago. And I was nervous going into it. And I've been teaching Freeform forever, but I was still nervous. I'm like, these are really veteran performers with really huge credentials. And at the end, one of them told me, was like, Will, what you're doing here is you are forcing us to really stay in the moment. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly like Freeform is meant to just, you're not thinking about a format, you're not thinking about a structure, you're not thinking about a story, you're just thinking in the moment and see what happens. Mm-hmm. But still, all those other things that we look for in improv will happen. A story will be told, callbacks will happen, all those other things will still happen.
Yeah.
Even though we're kind of a little bit more on the on the seat of our pants. I still don't know why it's called off on the seat of your pants, but yes, on the seat of your
Seat of
pants.
your pants. Yeah, I don't know. Why is it seat of your pants and not seat of the chair? Like if you're sitting on the edge of the chair.
On the edge you have me on the edge of I'm sitting on the edge of the chair. No, it's seat of your, I gotta.
If you're not sitting on the seat of your pants,
What
then
are
you
you
don't have
sitting
any
on?
pants on.
Then you don't either you don't have any pants on, or you're standing, or you're lying down, slouched down.
I don't know what you're doing.
Rachel, this is a lot of fun. It's always fun to catch up. And wow, we really talked a lot about I like where that conversation went. We talked a lot of good stuff, I think very useful stuff for our students in regards to rap and freestyle rap and freeform improv. A lot of free stuff.
We did
it. So thank you very much, Rachel, for doing our FST improv interview. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for the comments that you left. I'm glad you enjoyed this and found it useful. We will be back next week with another improv interview. I'll be announcing our guest soon. And tomorrow night we will be doing radio call-in at 7 o'clock on Instagram and Sketchprov at 8 o'clock. If there are any performers out there who are interested in being in Sketchprov, we are still looking for 1 or 2 performers. So just reach out, send me a message, and I'll try to get you on. Thanks again, Rachel. Thank you again to our audience. And thank you again for Matt Walker for your wonderful tunes. And we are done. Thank you very much. Bye.